Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Curot Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 1998 sci-fi monster film Godzilla. Now Godzilla, back in 1998, ran for 2 hours and 19 minutes long. It is directed by Roland Emmerich. The production was also done by Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin. Devlin and Emmerich also wrote the script, based on previous 1994 script by Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio. The score was done by David Arnold, the cinematographer Yuli Steiger, and it was edited by Peter Amundsen and David Siegel. And the stars of the movie are Matthew Broderick, Jean Reno, Maria Pitillo, Hank Azaria, Harry Shearer, and Michael Lerner. And the story of Godzilla goes something like this. An overwhelming series of brightly inflated lights takes over the skies where a nuclear bomb is being tested in French Polynesia, and it's being examined. Moments later, the Pacific Ocean is churning as a freighter is moving at a very rapid rate. Giant footprints have been spotted around the South Pacific beaches and rainforests. American coastal ships have been wrecked as they were twirling into a rolling sea with no other culprit, with no logical explanation. The carnage then manifests all the way to Manhattan, New York. Big surprise, where the culprit centers around a giant dinosaur-like creature that's bigger than a Spinosaurus, ruthlessly destroys the city, leaving it in near rubble as panic and fear comes into full effect. A scientist named Dr. Nick Tatopoulos, played by Matthew Broderick, an ambitious journalist, Audrey Timmons, played by Maria Pitillo, her camera person, Animal Palati, played by Hank Azaria, and a French insurance investigator, played by Jean Reno, are on the site where an unorthodox camaraderie comes into fruition. Despite their working agendas and contrasting ways to go about it, they join forces to try to defeat the beast before her babies hatch, and before it's too late. Back in 1981, everyone's favorite super dinosaur has terrorized audiences for over 60 years and has now returned to the big screen, stomping on vehicles, destroying tall buildings, and breathing fire from its mouth. In this 1998 adaptation, perhaps even more so than the 2014 remake, Godzilla was one of the most hyped up summer blockbuster films of all time. But the final product resulted in nothing more than an overdone, overrated abomination. It just lacked in excitement, thrills, or even exposure to the massive beast, which was what I was expecting. I wanted to see more of the beast. But half the time the camera footage doesn't show the beast in her entirety, since they decided to make Godzilla into a female. Back in the 50s, when Godzilla was wreaking havoc in Japan, the stories focusing on the monster was often intense, though campy with cheesy, archaic technical effects, but did reflect on a true phobia and a distrust at the time when science and nuclear war was becoming a threat. However, the 1998 version is contrary to the intentions that the Japanese versions had. Okay, the technical features have improved tremendously, but the fear factor is not very effective. Godzilla in the more modern day feels not well needed and has no symbolic metaphoric references in our less than paranoid world than in years before. Directed by Roland Emmerich, who also directed such sci-fi stuff as Stargate and Independence Day, made Godzilla to cater towards the audience into making him a spectacle rather than to implement a significant story behind the beast and its destructive nature. The monster simply just plows his way across the Pacific towards New York City, where all modern-day giant beasts make their homes to prove themselves formidable. But the main thing wrong here is that the monster's screen time seems to be at only 30 minutes long. That's quite a record low, and not necessarily for the better either. The unleashing of the monster is to be blamed towards nuclear testing. When the opening credits come into fruition, we see iguanas staring at a giant mushroom-shaped cloud coming down. Radiation has a lasting effect on these lizards, and before you know it, Godzilla materializes, standing over 100 feet tall, leaving massive footprints and demolishing fishing boats. What could I say about the performances? Matthew Broderick as Dr. Totopoulos is a nerdy kind of scientist who was brought into the mix, while his ex-girlfriend, TV journalist Audrey Timmons, who has ambitions of being promoted news anchor and coverage on Godzilla's destruction, is her one-way ticket to that position. Let's just say our modern-day apocalypse is just another shoe-in for advanced career opportunities. That's the way I feel about it. I mean, if people want to feel contrary about my beliefs, go right ahead. So as long as, you don't blast my beliefs, because I will not do that to you. In the end, just you show me respect, I'll show you respect. Easy as that. Once again, we have Matthew Broderick playing the same character he's played all of his career. Maria Pitillo, she kind of fared better and was adorable in her role. It was just too bad she knew it herself. I don't think she should have gotten the Golden Raspberry Awards at the Razzies. I think that was kind of like unfair on her part. I don't think she deserved a Razzie. But at the same time, I wouldn't give her too much high praise either. The real standout performer definitely comes from Jean Reno as the French secret agent Philippe Roche. With his panicked eyes and his pockmarked complexion and his harried expression, he was actually the sole character other than the giant lizard that held my interest. I mean, he scoffs at the awful coffee the New Yorkers make, and it was actually kind of funny when he started impersonating Elvis in front of American soldiers. I think what really made this movie not stand out well is because the missing ingredient that would have made Godzilla all the more better was to implement some tongue-in-cheek humor, which Emmerich used quite effectively on Independence Day, but he totally neglected this here. I mean, of course it's not meant to be taken seriously. This is not Shakespeare or Tennessee Williams. I'm not looking for anything that'll change my life or make me reconsider any of things that I have done wrong. No, this is a popcorn movie that you could sit down with and enjoy it. But I would have enjoyed it better if they would have had some humor. Tongue-in-cheek, puns, cheesy one-liners. That would have been a little more effective. And maybe I would have elevated my markings of this movie at a higher number. Not necessarily 10 out of 10, but maybe a little bit higher than what I gave it. As it stands, Godzilla falls flat by simply lacking in wit. I mean, Michael Lerner could possibly pass off as one of the most loudest, annoying political leaders in the film industry. Maybe he should have gotten the Wild Raspberry Awards for Worst Supporting Actor for playing the role of Mayor Ebert, as he bears a stunning resemblance to legendary film critic Roger Ebert. And, oh, what a coincidence! His partner is a balding man named Gene. Ha ha! How funny is that, huh? Okay, but I digress. The only thrilling moments seems to feel at times recycled, as if has it been done before? Of course it's been done before. A lot of the action scenes and a lot of the special effects scenes often feels recycled from special effects powerhouses like Jurassic Park and The Lost World. The only exception that between these two movies is that Jurassic Park, The Lost World, their special effects seems to be executed far better than Godzilla 98. The monster's features are only shown from the waist down, crushing cars and demolishing cars with its powerful tail. And the final scenes where we discover that Godzilla is a she, and meanwhile it seems like a nest was built at Madison Square Garden where little Godzillas wreak havoc against feared bystanders. That looks like it's once again stolen pages from Spielberg with the Velociraptors. I mean, Mr. Emmerich, it's lazy filmmaking like this is what really ruined the movie. Aside from the lack of wit and the mediocre acting and not very much emphasis on tongue-in-cheek humor, this is what made this movie so deplorable. I mean, not a complete abomination, but close to it. So then, after the end of the day, Fifth Avenue was in rubble, Chrysler Building is crushed, the Brooklyn Bridge is now eradicated, and at the end of the destruction that may have cost trillions of dollars in damages, we begin to reveal that the beast was never good nor evil. It was just an animal. A gigantic, loud, shallow beast with reboots, remakes, and sequels in the future. I guess you could simply say that Godzilla's reputation is progressively becoming extinct. So with that in mind, if I was to give this a scale out of 10, I would have to give it a 5. I do not recommend this movie. It's awful. It was very, very lazily done. Very lackadaisically done by Roland Emmerich. And I know he can do better with movies like Stargate and Independence Day. Sure, they were big-time blockbuster movies, but at least they succeeded, and they lived up to my expectations. Maybe I had too much expectations that I was going to see a classic Godzilla movie, and not just some half-assed Godzilla remake or reboot, whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. And don't get me started with the 2014 one, because I wouldn't have recommended that either. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you want to subscribe to my channel, feel free to do so. If you want to leave a comment, go right ahead. Remember, be kind, be courteous, don't be rude, and I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Red Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.